kind of doing this in the dark a little bit. So, a big old dip right there. It's just a puddle. Anyway, so what I'm doing is, this is tabletop. I already kind of got the bottom and sides done, so that's where my round over is. It's time to get this tabletop done. I got it planed out with a router to where it's flat, and now it's basically just working on it to get it perfectly flat, right? So that's kind of the process there. As you can see, I still have some router ridges there I got to work through. I've got some chunks out of this from the router that I've got to work through up there in that corner. I've got to fill in all these cracks. I got some glue here, so if you're wondering why it's wet, though, what I'm doing is to try to get it perfectly flat, is essentially I'm letting the nature's sort of way to try to flatten this essentially is to sand it, get it wet. That'll raise the fibers up. So if there's any loose fibers in the wood, which is kind of interesting because it's end grain, so I'm not getting a whole lot, but there is some. I can feel that it's rough now. But letting it get wet, it'll raise the fibers up, and then from there, sand it again. So essentially, I'm sanding it, and then I'm doing a smoothing plane after I sand, because the sander kind of knocks down the spots, and then the smoothing plane can come back in and take off some of the ridges, and then just rinse and repeat until I don't see any more big scratches from the router planing. So I've got to get all these out. There is a dip right here that I've got to work out. So essentially everything's got to get at least that low, or I've got to wash that out so that it doesn't really show. But again, I want to have this as flat as it possibly can, because this is going to be a coffee table, and you don't want to put something on it and have it roll off or roll towards the spot or something like that. So it's got to be as flat as it can. So that's it. It's basically just sand, get wet, or sand, plane, get wet, repeat, sand, plane, get wet, repeat. Right at the moment I'm using 50 grit, which is a removal. So I'm going to work through my heavy grits, my 50 grit, 60, 80, 120, and then of course then you move up to your more polishing grits. So but before I do that, right, I'm going to have quite a bit of time on the smaller grits. So we're going to end up probably taking at least another 1/16 off. 32nd to 16th, maybe a heavy 32nd, let's put it that way, off of the thing overall. It's kind of interesting that glue got wet and turned yellow, because it's actually a black glue, so I wonder what it's going to look like tomorrow. But I'm going to let this sit overnight, let the grain pop up, hit it with sander again, hit it with planer again, just keep doing that off and on until I get all of the tool marks out of it. And then once I get the tool marks out of it, it's checking it with the straight edge, and then trying to see how level I am. So that's actually not too bad right there. Look at that. Not too bad, just as is. I know it's not perfect. I think I got a pretty good gap there. I think I got some ridges around in some of these places. So not too bad. I would suspect this would be fairly flat, because it was actually a panel, and it was already previously flattened. So that should be flat already-ish. But I do need the water to raise the grains over here on some of the places where I got some chip out. So that's kind of it. Just keep whittling at it. Hopefully this weekend, and today's a Wednesday, right? So hopefully by this weekend, I'll be ready to put some coats of, I'll be ready to edge out the sides here, and then start putting some coats of Osmo on. I got a little bit of work to do before then first, so quite a bit of work. So it's kind of an if. But I'd like to do that because then next week I could start working on the base. And because that's going to take a little bit of time, a week, maybe a week or two to get it done. And then of course at that point it'll be just putting the top on the base, and we'll probably do that upstairs. Carry him separately. Although this is getting a lot thinner than it was, so I don't know if you guys can notice. So yeah, that's it. Thanks.